Hey y'all, it's Brandon with Hickory Forge. Now, I do not make a lot of knives. And there's several reasons for this. I've just never really enjoyed it. And as somebody who doesn't make a lot of knives, I've never even really looked at a 2x72 belt grinder. This is my belt grinder. So you can probably see why I don't make a lot of knives. But recently I went by a buddy of mine's shop, and he had just built a ridiculously nice 2x72 grinder, and I used it a little bit, and I'm like, this thing looks like it might be useful for more than just knives. So I have decided to build one as cheap as I possibly could. Well, this is it. This is my new 2x72 inch belt grinder. Now, I bought some parts for it. It's about purpose-made parts, none of which I recommend. Most of this stuff I had laying around. You know, I don't really get rid of a lot of scrap or motors or things. So I happen to have some stuff laying around, but money I spent on it, less than $200, and if I had to buy all the material, I think I could be into this for, well, counting a motor, less than $500. So anyway, I just want to kind of show you my process. Now, I don't think anything on this is original. There is information on home-built, shop-built belt grinders all over the internet. There's a complete Facebook group, which is, those guys are very nice. They answer questions. Home-built grinders, I think is the name of it. There's a multitude of YouTube videos. I didn't buy a set of plans. I just kind of went off of what I could see and figure out and work out, which did, you know, some of the measurements were a little hinky. I'll put all the measurements to this down in the description. Maybe not immediately as soon as the video comes out, but I will get them in there eventually. The three main videos that I based a lot of this on was, and I'll link these videos in the description, was HouseMade, Old Hickory Forge, and Jer Schmidt. And they all seem like real nice fellas. I mean, basically you've got a dungeon blacksmith, a grinder making hipster, and a Midwest guy. All of them seem like they'd be fun guys to have a beer with. But anyway, I digress. I took a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and ended up with this, which is nothing like any of them. So anyway, instead of making one huge long video, I broke this up. So let's get started. Starting off with materials I'm using that I already had. This electrical stuff that I had on hand. Now this isn't really used, but this has been in my drawer of electrical stuff. It's a switch and a metal switch box, and I will also get a plate cover. This is a cord off of an old air compressor that I made a grill out of the tank for a guy. And this is a 1 horsepower motor that came off of a busted dust extraction fan. Anyway, it's been kicking around in the shop for a while, so no cost on this stuff. These are things that I spent some money on. I went by Harbor Frost and got a couple of standard receiver tubes for my 2-inch stuff. That's what I have welded underneath my welding table that I put vices in, and the leaf and stuff like that. These are cheap enough, and I'm going to end up cutting some of them off, and I don't know if this is a good plan or not, but I don't want to fool with getting the seam out of some regular tubing. Now this is a pulley wheel set, or a wheel set for a 2x72 grinder that I got off of Amazon. And I was like, yeah, that one looks like a good deal. That's aluminum. So this wasn't the cheapest ones on there. I went ahead and got them. They've got the bearings are standard bearings, you know, that I can get anywhere. And they've got the little, I guess, bushing, the piece to keep the bearings from collapsing inside, which is good. This was supposed to be able to fit a 5/8 drive. It did not. It did not fit a 5/8 drive. But it was cheaper for me to take this to the machine shop, Woodard Machine, over in Carthage, Tennessee, which, by the way, cool old machine shop. Maybe I can get Mr. Woodard to let me shoot some video in there sometime. But, and have this machined out to 5/8 to fit on that motor. Now, of course, I can drill this myself to 5/8. And I could take a file or a cape chisel and put that key slot in there. But it's a lot easier to pay Mr. Woodard $30 to do it. I'll put the link to these in the description. Not that I know why you would want to buy them, because, well, they're not the right size. And then I ordered this off of Amazon, also pretty cheap. And let me tell you the problem with this. It was supposed to be 1/2 inch, if I can get this open. 1/2 inch, I can't remember the thread size, but it's supposed to fit these bolts right here. This is threaded. Yeah, it doesn't. So I'll link this again, but I don't know why you would buy it, because it's not right. So I'm going to have to drill that and thread it so it will fit this. And then I also got a pile of cheap 2x72 belts. Anyway, all in, if this is all I have to get, which it, you know, odds and ends, bolts and stuff like that. But if this is all I've got to get, I'm gonna have, I don't know, $100 in this thing, 120 bucks. First thing I'm gonna do is clean the steel that I'm gonna be using for this. I'm just putting it in a tote and I'm soaking it in vinegar. Now, you've seen me use vinegar to take galvanized off of stuff I'm gonna weld. I've used it for that kind of stuff for years. I've taken old cast iron and put in vinegar before I reseason it. I've used vinegar for cleaning lots of things, axe heads, things like that. They're really rough. It never occurred to me to use vinegar. Ooh, that's not gonna fit. It never occurred to me to use vinegar for cleaning my steel material. I think it's HouseMade. Anyway, I'll put a link to the guy who he, recommended this to take mill scale off, and I'm like, yeah, that seems like a better plan than me using a wire wheel and helping the future mesothelioma, or however you say it, out. But I'm just going to soak this steel in vinegar overnight and hopefully get the rust and funk and everything off of it with a minimum of labor. Maybe this bucket won't leak. This may come as a shock to you, but every container I put this in leaked until I went and bought a new one. Okay, so that took the rust and mill scale and everything just right off of this. This vinegar, good stuff. Here's one of the, wow, here's one of the funkier pieces. Yeah, this may become a regular thing. Here's the stuff I threw in the vinegar after I washed it with soap and water. So, yeah, that was a good idea there, HouseMade. And right here is the stuff that came off of it. I got most of the vinegar out and back in bottles to reuse. But yeah, that's funky. First order of business, I'm going to take these receiver tubes. I'm going to cut them down to 9 inches. got these cut. Now here's the plan. These are going to be welded together. One of them is going to hold like our flat we're grinding on, or the contact wheel, and the other one's going to hold our tool wrist. So since there's a little slop in here, what I want to do is I want to put some tensioning bolts in. The one on top, I'm going to put them coming in catty corner. And because that'll be hard to thread, I'm actually going to weld nuts on this corner right here. The bottom one, I'm going to drill and tap and have my bolts go in there. Well, this is kind of where I want to be at. These two bottom ones are tapped. These two on top, I ground it out where I could weld a bolt in there to put it at an angle. Looking back, there was enough material I could have just ground a little flat spot and drilled and tapped that. I know if I ever do this again. Now I've got these pretty much, well, I've got these exactly where I want them. And I'm going to tack them, and then I'm going to do some stitch welds to get everything connected. Our next step, I have cut some legs. They're 5 inches, give or take. I'll put a parts list in the description. I cleaned all the powder coating off the bottom of our receivers here. I've got this square setting 1 inch in, and I've got it setting up on some 1/4 inch strips, so it'll be in the middle there. And I'm just gonna tack that on, and then tack the other one on. Well, y'all, that's about as far as we're going to go in this one. If you have any questions or comments, let me know. Do you have a 2x72 that you built? I'd love to hear about it. Let me know in the comments, and y'all behave yourselves.